All right, let's make sure the audio's working here. Let me see if I can cut some of this bass. It's a little bit boxy sounding. All right, let's see how this sounds. Give me a minute to hear the playback. Okay, I think that sounds a little bit better. This is really kind of a test stream. I wanted to go ahead and test out my new setup here. And I wanted to go through this Suhr build that I've been looking at. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Sure, this is nice and okay. Shrink this down here. Trying to learn how to work Streamlabs. It's a little bit, it doesn't remember the settings all the time, does it? New to all of this. All right. Yeah, so let's go over here to the custom Suhr page here. And we'll go to the configurator. And I think I'm trying to build a modern. I bought a modern a few months ago, and it's probably my favorite guitar. It's got two pickups, both humbuckers, and I've been thinking that I really would like to get a single coil guitar. I'm not sure if I want HSH or HSS, but unfortunately, you really can't find a lot of these HSS. You can find the standards, but the standard doesn't give you the neck shape of the elliptical. And it kind of sucks because I also would prefer 22 frets. So I'm kind of stuck. Do I choose the neck shape, which is the elliptical? That's what I want. Or do I go with the standard, which gives you 22 frets? So unfortunately, I don't think you can pick 22 frets with an elliptical, whether it's a standard or a modern. So you're kind of stuck, or a classic S. You're kind of stuck making a compromise here. So this configurator here, all of these options, this is a pretty good, but as the website says, it's not complete. And if you Google like Suhr configurator, you'll see that there's a handful of other Suhr dealers that actually have their own. I think, is it Matt's Music has one, and it does have other options, like you can add the blower switch. I think it adds push-pull potentiometers. Um, I don't think that's on this site. Yeah, optional electronics, and then the custom wiring. It just says to contact your Suhr dealer. So That's a little annoying. And again, I on those other configurators, those builders, I don't know if the pricing on them is up to date either. So I figured I'd just stick with this one. So what I really would like is to get like a Music Man Steve Morse model, which I actually had and sold because once I got the Suhr, the large frets really sold me on the Suhr. Because the Music Man, while it's stainless steel, they're not quite as big. And this was the first guitar that I had with that size fret. Pretty much the biggest frets I think you can get out there. I mean, these are jumbo 0.57 by 0.110. So once I played the Suhr, I got rid of the Steve Morse model. Super nice guitar. I actually really liked that neck. It's got the tongue oil, really great feeling neck. But that pickup combination was kind of overkill for me. I did love all the options. I just didn't like the switching. I would have wanted to change the pickup too, maybe. So rather than cannibalize the guitar and change everything, the fact that the frets I thought were too small, but super fun to play. I thought I should build a Suhr here. So it really comes down to what you want, and I don't really want to pay for top wood. I do want a gloss finish. Don't want basswood. I also don't want a black back. A lot of the Suhrs you'll find have that black back, and I just think that's lazy. I want either a natural back like a Les Paul or a stain like a red stain, but I've been looking at, I think it's down here, this trans red, which lets you see the finish underneath. And obviously, I don't know, do you go with alder? Do you go with mahogany, which is an extra 310 bucks? Do you go with something else? I'm mainly concerned about how light the guitar is. I'd like for it to be around 7.5 pounds, which is the Suhr Modern Custom that I have. I think it's 7.7. My understanding is mahogany is typically a little heavier. And I want a gloss finish. I want the standard contours here. You can see if you select none, that light highlight disappears. Same with on the back, which is the way the Steve Morse model was. It had no tummy cut here. It did not have the forearm cut, and on the back it did not have any cutaway here, which honestly up here it didn't need, but I do find the Suhr more comfortable. Playing Les Paul for a long time, I think I'm starting to, even though it's light, I've got an 8-pound Epiphone. I've never liked the heavy guitars. This is definitely, I'm finding a little more comfortable. So we'll go with the contours here. And you can't get body binding if you just have a piece of wood with no top on it, but that's fine with me. Chambering again is not allowed. You can't get a sound hole because you're not going with an arch top, and there is no top. This is just a slab of alder. Side jack is the only option with the modern, because I think if you go with the standard, you have a choice between where you want the input jack. And then you have the color here. I think chrome is what I want. I like gold, but it just tarnishes and kind of ugly. And they give you rear out there. Pick guard material. You can't get a pick guard on the modern, so none of that applies. One thing you do get is, at least according to this, you can pick pretty much any tremolo you want, except this one up here. And it's the same price, which I don't know how I feel about that. One thing they don't list, I think it's the TP6, which is on the new. It's on other guitars, but the Suhr Oso, the ones without the tremolo, it's like a Les Paul bridge, kind of similar to the Steve Morse model, where it's got the bridge and then I think it's the tailpiece. It goes into the body, but that's something they don't have available here, and that's something that I would want if I ordered this. So I'm trying to keep this guitar as different to the modern that I have, um, so that I'm not tempted to play with the whammy bar. All right. I I'm not sure. Let's see. If you pick the Godo Floyd, for example, yeah, you have an option if you want it recessed or not. Back here, we just want a hardtail. All right. Let's go over to the neck here. The guitar I have is a satin, and the modern elliptical, I have one that's a little more unique. It is this one right here, the 820 by 870. Most of the ones, like if you go on Reverb and I think the Modern Plus, most of them are this size here. I think the Modern LE that they just released with the pastel colors, like the light blue, light green, light yellow, I think that's the smaller one. Um, but that's the one that I like. That's the one I'm used to. And I guess you can only pick between the reverse and the original. I'll go with the original. If you pick like a top, you get more options here with the top wood there. And you do have the option to go with black, which I like. I do want gloss. That's an easy thing to miss. You don't want to miss that. Can't change that. I've always liked Indian rosewood, which it's actually a little bit cheaper. I find that I like the dark Indian rosewood, and I've had a few guitars with this ebony, and that's what is on my Suhr, and it looks good. But some of these guitars with ebony, it looks like it's just been stained, where you can see through to the wood underneath. I don't think it looks very good. So if it's going to be ebony, it's got to be dark. The guitar I have is a 16-inch radius. This is tricky. I don't know if I'd go with 10 to 14. That's probably what I want. My guitar also has an extra rolled fretboard edges. It says extra rolled. It looks like it's rolled. It doesn't really look like it's extra. I don't know how it could be anything other than standard because it doesn't look like it's extra, but that's not even an option here on this website, so you can't change that. I'd probably go with a black nut. This is the nut width that I want, a little bit narrower than this. I think it makes a difference, I can tell. And then the face dots, I think both the logo here on mine and the face dots are abalone. I would go with mother of pearl. I find that while it looks cool, or you may think it looks cool, I think the mother of pearl and even like what does Epiphone use? Just the acrylic. I think it pops a little more. I find like the abalone a little harder to see, so I'd go with mother of pearl on this, and I'd even go mother of pearl on the side dots too. And then you do have other options here, like what color do you want the logo? It's, I think, white. It's hard to say though. You got your locking keys. Just go with standard, chrome. All right, let's jump over to, and then I also have the roasted maple, an extra 120 bucks. Now this is where it gets a little more interesting. So the guitar I have has the SSV. I like it all right. Um, and I think when I was playing this before, I would like the pickups to be like this, or maybe the other way around. Um, and this is where I'm kind of stuck. Most of the Suhrs you see out there have the SSH plus, and that's what's in my guitar. And I have found this pickup to be great and also not so great. So let me explain what I mean. Going through the Soldano X88 IR, the new Soldano preamp, um, it's a very hot pickup, and it does not clean up very well. And even on my Soldano, when you put it on the clean channel, it distorts really easy. I mean, it's kind of a struggle to get a decent clean tone. It's such a hot pickup. And the other issue I had with it is, at least with the Soldano, when you're on higher gain, it can get kind of, well, two things. Whenever you're playing up high like a solo, depending on what type of pick you're using, it can get very chirpy and clicky. It's kind of annoying. And whenever you're playing rhythm, if you've got too much gain, I've got a DiMarzio Superstortion PAFs, and they sound great. I find with the SSH Plus, it's like too much output. It's throwing out too many frequencies, and it just doesn't sound very good. It sounds like the X88 IR can't handle it. That being said, if you go on the channel, you'll see that I also have the new Kasha Rock Mod 2025, and that is the SSH Plus, and I think it sounds much better. You don't hear the clickiness and the high gain rhythm. It sounds much better. The Soldano X88 is a smoother, Fender type of overdrive. It's not that bright Marshall biting. Um, so I think these pickups, or maybe it's just the fact that the pickups are really hot, don't sound great with it. But yet with the Kosh Rock mod, they sound pretty cool. I think they sound the way you would want them to. But being that I want this guitar to be different, I'm kind of inclined to go with a different pickup. I've played. What have I played through? I've played through the Aldrich Bridge on another Suhr, and that what you'll find online is everyone suggests that if you're having that problem with like the clickiness, and I did find that to be better, at least through the Soldano when I played that briefly for like a day. I had another Suhr that definitely got rid of that clickiness. Um, and then I've also played through an SSV in the bridge, and that's kind of more like a burst bucker, a PAF. It's brighter, it's not as high output, um, more vintage. But when it comes to these other ones like the DSH, the DSV Plus, um, you've got the Saddle Bucker, the where is it? The Thornbucker. Kind of up in the air because I don't want something that's as hot, but I also want I don't want something trying to sound like a Les Paul because this is not a Les Paul. So maybe something like where is it here? The DSH. I'm gonna have to research that. I'd probably go with the SSV in the neck, maybe a Thornbucker, um, and then I really don't care about the single coil. I don't have a lot of experience playing single coil guitars, but I do want one because I do like the way a single coil sounds clean. And I also want to be able to split the top pickup here for single coil. Having that Steve Morse guitar with the four pickups, definitely I found that guitar really excelled with clean tones. the dirtier the amp gets, you kind of start not really hearing a big difference. And you kind of go to your tones that you've always gone to, neck, bridge. Playing around, you know, it's kind of, it's a lot. If you don't use it, it's just a lot of switching. Which brings me to the next topic here, and that is the pickup selector. So the reason that I bought the Suhr that I have is that it actually had a three-way switch, three-way toggle switch, like a Les Paul. One big reason I've always liked the Les Paul is because I don't like the blade switches. And being a Les Paul player for so long, whenever I want to switch, I just want to throw my hand and go from the neck to the bridge or the bridge to the neck. I don't want to have to take the little selector, move it. And that reminds me of the Steve Morse. Position one was the bridge, position two was the neck. And that's a five-way selector switch. I'm used to throwing it up and down. So I don't want the blade switch. And I really like having that here. The only drawback is this is a three-way. And in order to get those tones, ideally, I'd like to have another switch here. Suhr does offer that. If you go online and go to Reverb, there are like classic S's, standards that do have little mini toggle switches, but that's not an option here. And it's not here either. And you can only have two volume knobs versus, I think the standard in the classic S, you can have three. But that's probably something where you could ask the dealer, can you add another switch here? Because ideally what I'd want is the ability to split this one, leave the bridge intact. I don't want to be able to split that. I don't like a single coil on the bridge. It's just way too bright. But I would think of a way to wire this up to get me the most amount of tones. So, and ideally I don't want push-pull either. So other than that, this is kind of what I've been playing around with. Go with the lighter string gauge. The guitar I have does have the soft case. I actually like the premium soft shell case because it's lighter, takes up less space. It's obviously cheaper. Um, I just like it. Some people complain about it, but I'm okay with that, giving me an option at least, save a little bit of money. And it is a pretty nice case. I've had several guitars, and probably the Music Man Steve Morse with the new mono case they have is the best. It's actually more molded. But this one is right below that. So what else do we have here? Let me go to the back. That's pretty much it. The only thing missing from this would be I'd like to have the fretboard rolled. I'd like to know if I can have another switch here, which would split this one here. And maybe talk more about how to wire this with a dealer, what the options are. That would just make me paranoid. Are they going to screw it up? Because that's going to be something that's not going to be done right. It's going to get lost in translation. You're going to get it, and then something's not going to be right. So yeah, rolled fretboard, maybe another switch. The blower switch also, which is not on here. You'll see, I think there's one right now, the LE Modern. They offer that, and what that does is it bypasses, if you press it down, whatever setting you're on, it bypasses that setting, and you got your bridge going directly to the output. So instead of having to play with your knob, well, that didn't sound right. Play with the switch, you can just press the button, boom, you're back at full power. So this is what I've been playing around with. They do have other finishes. If you go to the gallery and even look on what's on out there, there are other finishes. Um, and obviously, these are just kind of guidelines here. So some of these are cool. If you add another option here, and that is the top wood, this is where you can get into the flame tops. And then you also have the option of choosing the back, which is kind of cool. You don't really see it too often, but imagine if this was like I don't know, red, white, and blue, or you can have this like 3-tone burst, but then keep it red. That's kind of a cool option. Um, but I don't really think it's for me. I don't really want to pay. And you get the binding, the scraped binding. And then you can play around with the headstock finish if it's the same color as the body. But I'm really looking for tones. You know, I've got the guitar, the modern with the Floyd Rose, the high gain pickups. I'm looking for something that can go more clean, more vintage, especially like clean tones with the single coil. All right, well, that's enough of me rambling here. Um, if you liked this video, leave a comment. If you want to hear me ramble about something else, leave a comment. But I'm going to end it here.